Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava, page 119b, top of the page. This is the last Amud in Tractate Bava, and starting from the top of the page, with the words, and a carter should not place in a piece of cloth. Okay, so the Gemara on the previous Amud at the bottom started with Tanu Rabbanan. The sages taught in a Braita, Tosefta 11:13, one may purchase strands of wool from a launderer because they are assumed to be his. A launderer, okay, we're talking about things that one should or shouldn't purchase from because they might have been stolen. So in this case, in this mission, this Braita is saying that a launderer, you can buy strands of wool from a launderer because they're assumed to be his. A launderer may take the two upper threads of a garment as they are his. I'm not sure what that means, but anyway, okay. And a carter should not place in a piece of cloth more than 3 stitches for each loop that he attaches to the cloth in order to stretch it out, as this causes the cloth to overstretch and require trimming. And he should not card the cloth along its warp, in other words, vertically, but along the weft, meaning horizontally. And he may even out the cloth by cutting it along its length, but not along its width. And if he comes to even out the cloth by removing up to a handbreadth of material, it is permitted for him to do so. The Gemara analyzes the Braita. The master said, Amar Mar, in the Braita, that the launderer may take 2 threads. But didn't we learn in the Mishnah that the launderer may take 3 threads? The Gemara answers, this is not difficult. The ruling of this Braita, which allows only 2 threads, is stated with regard to thick threads. And the ruling of that Mishnah, which allows 3 threads, is stated with regard to thin ones. It was also stated in the Braita, he should not card the cloth along its warp, but along its weft, meaning horizontally. Not vertically, but horizontally. The Gemara asks, but isn't it taught in another Braita that the opposite is the halacha? The Gemara answers, this is not difficult. The ruling of this Braita, which prohibits carding along the warp, is stated with regard to an ordinary garment, which is designed for durability, and one should therefore avoid wearing out the material by carding along the warp. There's a good simon. Warp is vertical because vertical is a V and there's an R. So warp, and V is like W. So vertical, warp. Weft is horizontal because horizontal has a T. Vertical also has a T. Horizontal has a whatever. Once you know warp, that's good. Okay, warp is vertical. Horizontal has also an R. We're back to square one again. Okay, anyway. Warp is vertical and weft is horizontal, okay? Sometimes you just gotta memorize it. The ruling of that Braita, which allows one to card along the warp, is stated with regard to an elegant cape. Besar bela, which is made for aesthetic appearance and is therefore improved by carding in this manner. The Gemara examines the next clause of the Braita, and the carter should not place in a cloth more than 3 stitches for each loop. Rabbi Yirmiyah raises a dilemma, and what's very interesting is that Rabbi Jeremiah asks many dilemmas that result in tekus. What's the reason for that? Teku. It's my own teku. Rabbi Yirmiyah raises a dilemma with regard to the definition of the term stitch in this context. Does drawing the needle in and out constitute one stitch? Or perhaps, does drawing the needle in and out constitute two stitches? When you go in and out. Okay, you go in and then out. Is that one stitch? Or is each particular hole considered a stitch? 1, 2. Tekel. We have to wait till the Messiah comes and Elijah. Zusammen biyachid. To resolve this question. Was it sein? We don't know. Is it one stitch? Or is it two? It was further stated in the Braita, and he may even out the cloth by cutting it along its length, but not its width. The Gemara asks, but isn't it taught in another Braita that the opposite is true? The Gemara answers that this is not difficult. The statement of this Braita, which rules that one should even out the cloth along its length, is stated with regard to a garment, where an uneven length would be conspicuous. The statement of that Braita, which rules that one should even it out along its width, is stated with regard to a belt, as the width of a belt is more noticeable than its length while it is being worn. The Gemara cites a Braita that discusses which items may be purchased from a carter. The sages taught in a Braita, Tosefta 11:12, one may not purchase strands of a thread from a carter because it is assumed that they are not his. And in a place where the residents were accustomed to allow carters to retain strands, the strands may be presumed to be his, and one may purchase them. And in every place one may purchase from them a cushion full of stuffing made from strands, or a mattress full of stuffing made from strands. What is the reason that it is permitted? The reason is that even if the carter has stolen the strands, once he uses them to make a cushion or mattress, he has acquired them through a change of form. Tanu Ramanan. We learn in the Braisa, apropos to halachot pertaining to weaving, the Gemara cites a Braita that discusses which items may be purchased from various craftsmen. The sages taught in a Braita, Tosefta 11:11, one may purchase from a weaver neither woolen wads, irene, which are used to hold up the bobbin in place or on a shuttle, or heddles, nirine, nor threads of the bobbin, the punkalim, nor remnants of coils of thread that were left on the spool, as there is a concern that these items were taken from the customer without his consent. But one may purchase a spotted garment from them, even though the design indicates that it was made from strands of different colors, which the weaver may have stolen from other garments that he was weaving. It is also permitted to purchase warp threads and weft threads from them, as well as wool that was spun into thread or woven. All of these items may be purchased from the weaver because they have undergone a physical change, and they have therefore been acquired by the weaver, even if he did steal them. The Gemara asks, say now that the Braita taught that one may purchase spun wool despite the fact that it has undergone only a minor physical change, is it necessary to teach that one may purchase woven wool, which has undergone a greater change of form? The Gemara answers, what does the Braita mean when it mentions woven wool? It is not referring to wool woven into a garment, but to wool that was twisted into chains, which is also a minor physical change. Tanu Rabbanan, Mahamagalaritz in the Brisa, the rabbis taught. The Gemara examines which items may be bought from a dyer. The sages taught in the Brisa, pick your pronunciation. One may purchase from a dyer neither pieces of wool used for tests, nor pieces used as color sample, which is a dugmut, nor detached pieces of wool, as these might have been stolen. But one may purchase from him a colored garment, spun threads, and clothes fashioned from aforementioned pieces of material. The Gemara asks, now that the Brisa taught that one may purchase spun threads from the dyer, is it necessary to teach that one may purchase clothes? It is obvious that one may purchase clothes, as the clothes themselves are made of spun threads. The Gemara explains, what does the Brisa mean when it mentions clothes? It is referring to felt garments, which are not made of spun thread. The sages taught in a Brisa to Sefta 11:16, in the case of one who gives hides to a tanner, the trimmings of hide and the detached hairs belong to the customer, but the substance that comes up while being washed in water belongs to him, the tanner. The Mishnah teaches that if the threads were black on a white garment, the launderer may take all of them. Rav Yehuda said a launderer is called a katzra in Aramaic, and he takes the short katzra threads of wool for himself. Rav Yehuda also said all the threads, even those usually removed from the garment, are counted toward the minimum number of thumb lengths between the hole through which the sky blue wool is inserted for ritual fringes and the end of the garment. But Yitzchak, my son, is particular about these threads and makes sure that the garment is of the proper measurement, even if the threads were to be removed. Yitzchak, my son. Yitzchak bari kapid alayhu. It's deep here. It's in deep. Tzitzis, Yitzchak, particular. The Mishnah teaches in the case of a tailor who left enough thread attached. Shah. So sein Shah. Nine 3483. Maybe it's a message, you know what I'm saying? I won't say the area code. 937-3483. No one knows the area code. Okay. But Yitzchak, my son, is particular about these threads and makes that the garment is of the proper measurement even if the threads were to be removed. Oh, we're getting close. The Mishnah teaches in the case of a tailor who left enough thread attached to the cloth in order to sew with it, this thread belongs to the customer. The Gemara asks, and how much thread is necessary in order to be able to sew? Rav Ashi said, the length of a needle outside the needle. A dilemma was raised before the sages. Did Rav Asi mean... Oh, I'm sorry, it's Rav Asi. Rav Asi said the length of a needle. Okay. Did Rav Asi mean that the thread must be the size of the needle, and that beyond the needle there must be an additional amount of thread equivalent to the size of the needle? Or perhaps he meant that it must be the size of the needle, and that beyond the needle there must be any minimal amount of additional string. In other words, Rav Asi was Rav Asi saying that the thread must be 2 needle lengths or slightly more than 1 needle length? Tashema, let us hear from a Brisa. The Gemara responds, coming to hear a resolution as it is taught in Braita. By the way, that teku that we passed by was, I believe it was teku number 141 in Bavli, according to Rav Pessin's Sofer. The Gemara responds, coming here at a resolution, as it is taught in Braita, in the case of a tailor who left the thread attached to the cloth, but it was less than the length necessary in order to sew with it, or if there was a patch of cloth that is less than 3 finger breadths by 3 finger breadths left from the cloth given to the tailor, the customer in the halacha is dependent upon the customer's inclination. When the customer is particular about such items, these items belong to the customer. If the customer is not particular about them, those items belong to the tailor. The Gemara analyzes the Braita. How we can do it? What are we holding? Oh, maybe we'll do part 2. We'll do a part 2. Just because 15 minutes, we try to keep each thing 15 minutes. Once it exceeds 15 minutes, okay, so basically, what are we holding here? We'll start from the Tashema, okay?